welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're kind of on a mission, aren't we?
We are. We're trying to unpack this idea of divine guidance.
Right, drawing from a devotional text, guidance from the divine eye, and, the Bible verses it uses.
Exactly. And seeing how it might actually help, practically speaking, with reducing anxiety. That feeling of being overwhelmed so many of us have.
Yeah, definitely. So the listener's mission, if you like, is to find some real insights here. How can these ideas help you trust a bit more, maybe lift some of that daily pressure?
Moving beyond just, knowing about it.
We've got sources like Psalms 32.8, bits from Matthew 6, Luke 10, that Martha and Mary story.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And even a nod to Genesis 1.2. But what grabbed me right away was this image the devotional uses.
The birds.
Yeah. The birds watching us humans, all busy and worried down below. It sets up this immediate contrast, doesn't it?
It really does. Why are we so anxious when they seem so untroubled? Is it just how we are, or is it maybe how we're living?
Good question. So let's start with the foundation. They lay out this idea of divine love and provision, how deep that goes.
Okay. It starts pretty intensely, actually. The devotional makes this claim about God's love for us being, comparable to his love for his son.
Wow, yeah. Even leading to sacrifice. That's a huge statement about how we're seen, how we're cared for.
Absolutely huge. And it ties straight into Matthew 6, verse 26. You know the one.
Look at the birds.
Exactly. Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father keeps feeding them. Are you not worth much more than they? It's a direct challenge, isn't it? If God cares for them like that.
Then what does that imply about the care available to us? It really shifts your perspective on where security comes from.
It does, and it continues, right, with the lilies in verses 28 to 30.
Right, they don't toil or spin, but they're dressed better than Solomon in all his glory.
So what's that saying about all our striving? Our anxieties about, having enough, looking right?
Maybe it's misplaced.
Yeah.
That we're missing a different kind of provision.
I think that's the implication. That maybe our worry actually gets in the way of seeing the care that's already there. And this isn't just, like, a nice thought. It connects to that promise in Psalms 32.8.
Okay, what's that one again?
I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you.
Counsel you with my eye upon you? That sounds incredibly personal. Like constant attention guidance.
Yeah, like a dedicated mentor, always watching, always ready to guide.
Okay, so if that's the level of care and guidance being offered, it makes the next point feel even sharper.
The trap of anxiety and busyness.
Exactly. Those birds watching us.
Yeah.
It just highlights the disconnect. Why are we so often tied up in knots if this support system exists?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Matthew 6.25 hits it head on. Stop being perpetually uneasy, anxious and worried about your life.
Perpetually uneasy. That phrase really stands out. It suggests it's our default setting.
It often feels like it. So why? Why do we get stuck there, even with these promises? The devotional seems to link it to distraction.
Like the Martha and Mary story you mentioned earlier from Luke 10.
Precisely. You've got Martha completely frazzled, running around trying to get everything perfect for Jesus.
We've all been there.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then there's Mary just sitting at his feet listening.
And Jesus gently calls Martha out on it.
He does. Martha, Martha, he says, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary.
And Mary has chosen the good part.
Right. It wasn't that the serving was wrong, but her preoccupation with all the tasks made her miss the most important thing. The connection. The presence.
And the devotional suggests our modern lives.
Oh.
They look a lot like Martha's kitchen, don't they?
Very much so. This constant drive to be busy, 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 the text implies we're mirroring her distraction, overlooking that one necessary thing.
It's so ingrained in our culture, isn't it? Busyness equals importance. But does the devotional suggest this frantic activity actually fuels the anxiety?
Yeah.
By pulling us away from that connection?
I think that's exactly the point. It says Jesus wants to enter our hearts daily, offer rest. But we're so caught up in, worldly stuff, transformations.
We end up worried and troubled about many things, just like Martha.
Yeah. The busyness itself becomes a barrier. We're trying so hard to manage everything ourselves, we miss the guidance being offered.
So if we keep doing that, keep neglecting the one necessary thing, what happens then? The sources talk about consequences, right?
They do. It's painted as a kind of downward spiral. The devotional describes life shifting from potentially quiet, serene, and peaceful to a state filled with uncertainties, chaos, and scarcity.
Oh, wow. And that feeling of chaos and lack then fuels what?
More anxiety. It drives us into vain plans, preoccupation, and empty future plans. We try harder, plan more frantically, but it's disconnected, empty.
It mentions becoming unconsciously unaware. That's chilling. And heading into a maze of rutted dullness.
Doesn't that just capture that feeling of being stuck? On autopilot, going through the motions without joy or real direction.
Yeah, it really does. What's the deeper meaning there?
It suggests we kind of lose touch, lose awareness of the spiritual dimension, the guidance that's available. We're just stuck in the ruts.
And the endpoint described is quite stark. It references Genesis 1:2.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Yeah. The devotional uses this to imply that when our inner lives become chaotic, formless, disconnected.
Like the world before creation.
Kind of. It suggests the spirit, the divine presence, struggles to find a place to rest, to dwell, when everything is just void and dark internally.
Okay, that's a pretty heavy picture. But thankfully, it doesn't just leave us there.
No, definitely not. There's an alternative path offered, one focused on God's guidance and presence.
Right. It calls God the most creative creator.
And says he won't leave us stuck in those dull, rutted paths.
Instead, the promise is for, what was it? Fresh, untrodden trails of amazing adventures.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound better? It speaks to life being dynamic, full of potential, not just predictable worry.
Absolutely. And the key to finding these trails seems to be, well, connection again.
Yes. Staying in communication with him and following his guiding presence, it's about consciously shifting where you put your focus.
So less about worrying about the what-ifs and the whens of the future.
And more about tuning into that sense of presence now, in this moment.
How do we actually do that, though, practically speaking?
Well, the text points towards trust. Trusting that gifts will be developed, that will be guided, instead of trying to control everything.
Okay.
And it suggests a subtle shift in prayer, instead of just asking for problems to disappear.
Ask for strength within them. Patience.
Exactly. Strength to face them patiently. And there's a promise of clarity, specifically at choice points.
Okay. So not necessarily a detailed map for years ahead.
No, but guidance when you need to make a turn. It says, he will show you which directions to go for. He will guide you with his own eyes.
That personal guidance again.
And the overall advice is really to live one day at a time. But with God, finding joy in that presence, living abundantly right now.
Okay, so wrapping this up, it feels like the core message is really about swapping anxiety for trust.
Yeah, rooted in this deep sense of divine love and care, recognizing it's available.
And seeing how our own busyness, our own striving, can actually block us from experiencing that peace and guidance.
Right, and the consequences, if we stay blocked, that slide into chaos and meaninglessness.
But there's always that alternative path. Seeking connection, trusting the guidance, even if it's just step by step.
It boils down to shifting from anxious self-reliance, trying to figure it all out alone.
To a more peaceful reliance on a loving Father, a guiding presence.
Exactly.
So something for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on. What might that one necessary thing look like in your life right now? The thing that maybe gets pushed aside by all the busyness.
And consider how consciously making space for that, seeking that sense of guidance, however that looks for you, might start to lead you off those worn-out, anxious paths.
Could it open up some of those untrodden trails? It's really about trying a different way of walking through your days, isn't it?
One based more on trust and connection, less on worry and control. Something worth exploring.
Welcome.